everyone. I am Vanshika Ghai. Welcome to Developer Student Community session on open source. Today we have with us Mr. Shivansh Shrivastava. He is a third year student at VIT Vellore. He is a full stack developer and hybrid cloud evangelist. He is mentor at Google's Summer of Code 2021 and Google Season of Dogs. He is also a Udacity knowledge mentor and project reviewer. He has been a community member and top contributor at Google Crowdsource, and he is also a SDE intern at Paytm Money. So, without
Hello,
wasting
everyone.
it, let's start the session. So, please,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vanshika, for introducing me to the community. Hi, everyone. As Vanshika told a lot about me, so we'll be starting with a session right now. I'll be today talking about like open source and all the related programs people face like in their like first year, second year. So we'll be just covering all the session around that. So this is my general introduction that just Vanshika told, and we'll be going with the open source and related programs. So today I'll be talking about Google Summer of Code, a Google Season of Docs, MLH Fellowship, Outreachy program, and the Linux Foundation mentorship. So let's get started with like what is all about open source. So open source is basically a licensing agreement that allows to use freely the particular document or code freely and modify it to use it for our personal use or let it be on a collaboration state. So open source provides code implementation of the same particular problem in different ways, languages, and whatnot. So it lets a person learn new and easier techniques, collaborate with people all around, experts and mentors on a project, and implement tasks and enhance a particular project. So I'll be just sharing some tips to how to get started with open source. So this is a buzzing question whenever a person, like a student enters first year or second year of college. So this question arises, how to get started with open source. So there is no particular age bar or like class limit. You can start with open source at a particular age only. So it's like you can start with it on like when you're in school or when you join college or after that as well. So first and foremost important thing is that you must choose a programming language of your choice and just excel in it in a way like you can create programs, modify it, and just use logics as well in that language. Like basic data structures and algorithms are the most important thing for that language so as to excel in that language. So once you are done with selecting a programming language and excelling it in it, you can search for projects that you find interesting. So there are a lot of websites where you can go and search. So there are like Code Triage or GitHub Explore lets you find various projects related to programming language or frameworks. Then you can move forward and clone the project, set it up, find bugs in it, propose enhancements, or like raise issues. You can just solve the issues there and start contributing. So open source contributing is not limited to just pushing new commits. You can just ask in communities to how to get started with a particular GitHub repository. So it's like you can just enhance the project by mm, just giving them ideas of UX design, the particular code enhancement, or a document enhancement as well. So I'll be getting started after this with the prestigious Google Summer of Code program. I'll be mentoring this year for Circuitverse as well. So I'll just brief everyone about this particular program. It is a global program focused on bringing more and more like college students, developers in open source development. This time it was for like 10-week program, and last year it was 3 months, like around 12 weeks. And it is like a student is paired with mentor or multiple mentors from the participating organization on a particular project so that they gain exposure to real world software development and techniques. And the participating organizations are able to identify and bring in new developers to enhance their project. So the participating organizations list out their projects in around February or like January, and the organizations are announced in March. So you have a lot of time to get started with that project, ideate, innovate, and just present your ideas amongst the mentors and the organization admins. Most importantly, more code is created and released for the use for the benefit of all. This is important because the code which is created needs to be meaningful. It's not like the particular what do we say, a particular readme.md is modified, so it's not a particular like code or a commit. We need to just push meaningful commits so that we can enhance the repository and the project. So the program details are like, you can visit this link. I'll be posting the PPT after this session, and you can visit this link. You can find out the organizations participating this year, and you can first of all, you can just go to the archives of Summer of Code with Google, and you can look for organizations which have participated in the past year. And I would suggest like start contributing to those organizations as well, because it's like it's a particular not a particular rule, but it's uh, it's a pattern, like which organizations are in GSOC archives do always come in next GSOC as well. So I would like you to explore the GSOC archives as well before applying to GSOC and finding organizations. Student participants should be enrolled in a post-secondary academic program. So, as I mentioned, the students should be from an undergrad degree. So, let's say a college degree or a BTech degree from India. So, not particularly BTech, but it should be a college degree. And students have the opportunity to earn a stipend depending on the purchasing power parity of the country. So in India, we get around $3,000 for a particular project the students work on, and it depends on various other countries as well of their purchasing power parity. So I would like to discuss some of the important phases of this program, which are the organizations. When the organizations are around, the uh, application phase beginning, which is the most important phase where you get started with drafting your proposal and also contacting your mentors and admins for getting ideas from them on your proposal. And obviously the student project announcement, where you get the results of the GSOC, which is the most important, like most important for that particular aspirant, GSOC aspirant. And this is the GSOC is all about communication, contribution, and proposals. So the next thing that is the most important is join the IRC Slack or Discord channel of that organization and start contributing to the projects and discuss your ideas with the mentors. I am again and again mentioning, I would like to again tell you all, please go ahead, join that particular organization IRC channel, and select a project first. When you select a project, you'll get to know more about that project, and then you can contact the mentors, the admins for that particular project. Do not like message them repeatedly, but yes, I would like you to discuss ideas so that you get to know more about the particular project, and also they get to know more about you, that your interest is in this project, and you'll benefit them in a longer run. So moving on to Google Season of Docs. This is another program by Google, and the previous one was for open source software development, and this one here is for open source documentation development. So it's like it gives professional technical writers an opportunity to gain experience in open source by developing technical documents for that particular software. So as the software is important, so is the documentation of that particular software. And here this program focuses on the technical writing skills of the particular participant. So this is a program where the participant works closely with the organization, solving problems, issues, so that the documentation is well created. And when you submit a statement of interest to the organization, you can describe your experience in the technical writing field as well, so that your proposal gets some weight in it. So I would like last time I was mentoring Google Season of Docs 2020 at Circuitverse. So I would recommend adding your technical writing experience, and also I would recommend adding your any of the documentation you have created for any of the open source project. So this time, for this program details, you can just visit this link, Season of Docs. And this time, the technical writers no longer have to apply to any form provided by Google. They can directly go to the organization, propose their enhancements, and just get paired with the organization after they are selected by the organization. So it depends completely on the organization and your contribution and the proposal as well, that you're being selected for that particular project. You can obviously go out of the box and propose some new project or enhancements for that particular documentation. So organization here is an important role, because that only decides the particular student who is participating. And accepted organizations here also will receive grants from Google, which they use to pay the technical writers. And the most important point here is that you need to refer to the technical writing guide mentioned on this link, so that you get to know more about how to just produce a technical writing document, or how to get started with a proposal for this technical writing experience. So next on, we have the MLH fellowship program. So MLH Fellowship is really a good program by MLH team, and this is a remote internship alternative for aspiring technologists. So this is an experience where you get to work with outer world, everyone present in global, and there are a lot of good developers all around, and you get to work with them in this field. So to experience this fellowship program, and before you commit 12 full weeks for this program, you can apply for the pre-fellowship or explorer program as well. For this program, the qualified applicants are matched to the educational projects. So here we don't have the organizations specifically. Here we have the educational projects based on the programming language, the frameworks, the tooling experience, or any weekly availability. So you have the projects based on that, and depending on that you get some projects. So here we have 3 tracks for international students and 2 tracks for Indian applicants. So the tracks are as open source, software engineering, and production engineering track. So the production engineering track is not for Indian students. The else two are there for Indian students, so you can go ahead and apply for these. The fellowship.mlh.io is the link where you can just go on and apply. It is for the people who are over the age of 18, and if you are below the age of 18, so then if you're above 13, you can just participate in this program with your parents permission. And it runs around 3 12-week batches all over the year, specifically fall, summer, and spring. So I guess the application for 2 of them are open right now. You can go ahead and apply this awesome fellowship program. And the MLH team offers need-based scholarships. So when you are filling the MLH fellowship form, you get an option to opt out of this stipend thing. And if you like, you can just donate it, or just leave it alone, the field. And you need to be proficient in one of the programming language to participate in this program. So it's like you need to be either skilled in Python, Java, C++, Ruby, or any of one language, so that you can just go ahead and give the code review, and also get paired with a mentor who will take an interview depending on the language you have chosen. So this is all about the fellowship program. So we've covered Google Summer of Code, Google Season of Docs, MLH Fellowship Program powered by GitHub. And next on, we have another diversity program, which is Outreachy internships. So this is one of the unique diversity initiative that provides paid remote internships to people subject to systemic bias and impacted by underrepresentation in the technical industry where they're living. So it actually provides an opportunity to all the underrepresented people of the society and are paired with the organization and the experts so that they can get an experience of the internship. So the Outreachy interns work with the experienced mentors from open source communities. There are a lot of open source communities that take part in Outreachy every year, one of them being Mozilla. I've worked with Mozilla earlier and I know about Outreachy programs like timeline. So it's like whenever the particular student is selected, you need to work on like for Mozilla specifically, Bugzilla is used for uh, like solving bugs for Mozilla. So you need to just keep contributing, and provide in the like your interest in the IRC channel for Mozilla, and you'll get contact with mentors out there. You can just provide your present your enhancements for that particular project, and you might be the one who gets selected for this particular internship. You have to apply as well for this program. So, outreach internship projects may include programming, user experience, documentation, illustration, graphical design, data science, marketing, user advocacy, any of that. So, that's why I call it a diversity initiative, because it takes people from various diversities, and also the projects are a lot of diverse options out there. So the main goal of Outreachy is to increase diversity in open source, which they are doing completely perfect, because they are introducing it to people from the underrepresented sections of the society, and also to the people who face systemic bias or discrimination in the technology industry. So moving on to the flow of this program, like the internship details are available on outreachy.org, and it runs from May to August and December to March. So there are like 2 sessions per year, and you need to read the application guide thoroughly and sign up for the mailing list to get regular updates. So you need to just follow up every time you get a mail. You just need to keep an eye on the important like announcements and the dates timeline. Please follow that timeline so that you are well in the program, and the students are granted a decent stipend for their work by the organizations. So these organizations independently give stipend to the students. Students should dedicate around 40 hours per week to the project for at least 12 weeks. So this is a 12-week program as said, and for technically it's a 13-week program, and you need to just dedicate the first week for 12 weeks, and the last week would be for training. And it expressly invites women, trans men, and genderqueer people to apply. So it's all about diversity in open source. So this is one of the programs which includes a lot of diversity. So you all can apply to this as well. So this is one of the programs launched by Linux Foundation, and Linux Foundation mentorship program is designed to help developers with necessary skills. So mainly focusing on like cloud native or Kubernetes. These LFX mentorship program include like open source contributions to experiment and learn, contribute effectively to open source communities. So there are a lot of projects open right now for LFX mentorship, and if you're not applied to any of the programs listed behind, so you can just go ahead and apply for this LFX mentorship as well. I would definitely want you to apply for this LFX mentorship, as this is one of the golden programs in the complete list. And here, in addition to these programs, the Linux Foundation continues support for the diversity and inclusion with expanded mentorship program offered by Intel. So they have another expanded mentorship program by Intel, which was started during this pandemic situation, and this was to help the people who are into technology a lot more. And moving on to the program details, we have this link where you can just visit and get more details about this LFX mentorship program. You can learn more about this, get more experience, and students are given an opportunity to demonstrate sample tasks, cover letters, and so before applying to a project you get some tasks. So you need to upload your cover letter. Next on, you have to prepare a document for that particular task if they give it, and there are chances of selection. So this all increases your chances of selection. If you are completed the documentation things, then your chances for selection are increased. And you need to like communicate it with the mentors as well, that you've shown interest in this project. So it's all through their IRC channel as well. So mentees receive certificate upon their successful completion and some of the grants as well. And this mentorship program by Intel runs thrice a year, that is fall, summer, spring. So this is the main complete like abstract of this, that most of the programs run fall, summer, spring. So you need to keep an eye out and apply for the programs. So right now you can apply on LFX mentorship program, MLH fellowship. You can apply for Outreachy, which will be starting soon. And if you have applied for Google Summer of Code, then the results will be out soon. And if you applied for Google Season of Docs, the results are out right now. And you can prepare for Google Summer of Code and Google Season of Docs next year as well, because there are a lot of chances you can get into any of the organization and contribute effective code. So to get started with open source, these were some of the prestigious programs, and some of the programs that require a lot of a lot of knowledge and in this field of technology. And you need to be like excelling in some of the languages, like be it any of the Python or Java, be it any of the frameworks, React or Vue. So you need to be well versed in that particular language. So I would recommend joining some of the other open source programs listed, like Season of KDE or Julia Summer of Code. FSF internship is also for free software foundation, so you can join that as well. Summer of Haskell, FOSS Asia internship, GNOME internship, or Community Bridge mentorship. So these are the programs which you can join. You can So the Community Bridge mentorship is provided by Linux Foundation again, and that requires like this cloud native and Kubernetes skills. So these internship require some of the skills, and you can just make it in if you have got those skills. These are a lot of open source opportunities that you get around the year. Students who are just beginning with open source can take part in open source like competitions like FOSS Asia Code, Bountiful, Open Summer of Code, like Boss Program, Hacktoberfest, Girl Script Summer of Code, and other university season of code or summer of code as well. So there are like a dev script summer of code, script foundation, winter of code. So there are a lot of winter of codes, university SOCs. So there are a lot of programs launched by various universities, various foundations, so that people are more into open source. And these include a lot of programs. This actually gives opportunities to various people who are beginning with open source, and if you want to gain some experience, you can go ahead and apply for that. So if you have any questions, you can ask in between. I would be just moving with this. And the next thing I would ask for is the participant responsibilities. So if you are a participant, you need to know some of the responsibilities that you have. So submitting high quality work is the first and foremost important thing in this, that you need to submit high quality work in the sense like you need to make meaningful contributions, editing the readme files or just changing the grammatical errors won't work. Here you need to just include code snippets or enhance the code basis of the particular repository or the project to get more contributions and to get in the eyes of the mentors. So some of the organizations actually see this when there is a neck to neck competition between the proposals. Most thing that matters is the project contribution you've done. So I would recommend doing high quality work so that there is no doubt of your selection. And also I would recommend that high quality work includes testing of that particular snippet as well. So after complete testing, you should push the PR as well. Regularly communicate with the the work you have completed with the mentor or like the org admin, and also you can just mention your uh, holidays or leaves you want to take. You can just send in your blockers you encounter. So that's all particular things you can just talk with your mentor and he'll help you solve these issues. So if you want to reevaluate the scope when significantly ahead or behind the expectations, so whenever the people have some emergencies or want to take leaves, so they need to reevaluate this work scope because the timeline gets passed, and this is all done with the mentor and the admins of that particular organization. And communicate with your mentor and the broader community. So it's like when you're participating in these prestigious program, I would recommend communicating with your mentors. And also I would like you to just be stay active in the community. So active in the community in the sense, whenever someone asks any questions in the community, the mentors or the core team is not every time available, so you can just take your charge and just answer those questions. That would enhance your enhance your personality and profile as well in the community, and also the mentors will get to know that you're interested in that particular project. And listen, respond to the feedback. So the most important thing is when the mentors give feedback, those are something coming from an experienced point of view, and that will help a lot to improve your proposal and also the project you are working on. So let's say you have submitted a proposal for Google Summer of Code and I'm reviewing it. So that time whenever I would send in comments on your draft proposal, so if you work accordingly you would get a lot of increased chances of selection, because if you're working and enhancing those feedbacks and comments, that would help your proposal shine more. So moving on to a guide to a powerful application. So there is no such powerful application. It is just it is just a particular proposal which has some of these points, and that would increase your chances of selection whenever you submit the proposal with these points inculcated in it. So the personal information goes like your name, display name of your choice, and email address, any of the thing you want to mention. Moving on to the information about the technical writing experience of the open source development experience. So you can just mention about what you have done in the past, on which organizations you have worked with, or which particular code snippet in that particular project have you enhanced, what are your particular vision for that project, what is your aim for the complete GSOC or GSOD or this MLH season. So you need to just specify your aim or why you want to be in that particular program. And choosing the organizations is a step which is the most important step, because most of the people are choosing the organizations, going to the organizations, and if they don't understand they leave it. So I would not recommend doing this. I would just want you to explore some of the past archives, let's say the last 3 years organizations from GSOC archives, and that will give you a fair experience about what organizations are in this program, and also which organizations are participating repeatedly in this program, so that you can apply for it next year, and make sure that you communicate well in advance with the organization that you want to take part in GSOC, because some of the organizations aren't applying for 2022 season. So you need to just take care which organizations are not applying, and you need to just ask them once, so that your proposal making don't go in vain. And you, after selecting the organization, you just need to get started with the project and suggest a project of your choice. So going out of the box sometimes give you advantage, because if you go out of the box, it's like presenting or proposing an all new project from scratch, and that is sometimes beneficial for the organization as well and the student, because if the organization would like the idea in the way you propose, definitely you would get your chances increased for this selection. I would recommend doing this if you have a good project, like project enhancement or a project in your mind for that particular organization, in continuation to the like previous projects or any of the repositories. Next, we have like give details of the features you are proposing to implement. So I would recommend doing it like if you plan to update a particular module or site, include a link or describe the proposed updates. So if you plan to propose, let's say, doing mobile compatibility or something like that, so you need to just make a dummy code base, or just deploy it on any Netlify or Heroku, and just include a link in your proposal, so that you get you get your chances increased, because that also adds weight to your proposal. When the mentors are reviewing it, we get to know that that particular student has worked a lot on the project and enhancing it. So why you want to propose this new project topic is the most important question asked when you are proposing a topic out of the box. So if you have discussed it with someone in the team, like core team, so you can just include the points why are you actually proposing this. And if you want, like if you have not communicated it, you first would have to communicate, so that you get a fair idea if that project is feasible and scalable as well in respect to the organization. Pay attention to the language and style of your proposal. So the language should be formal, and the open source organization may use these as a factor in assessing your proposal. So as we are assessing the proposals right now, so I would definitely keep these points here, so that you keep these in mind while you write a proposal for GSOC, GSOD, or any of the programs that are upcoming in the near future. And the formal language actually helps a lot, because informal language is not the thing which we expect. And the next thing we go on to, what's in there for you. So whenever you work, you expect some things. So I would just want to list out what things are here in for you. A lot of experience working along with the prestigious open source organization. So you get to work with mentors, experienced mentors out there in the community, and also some of the organization admins, some cool organization admins. And you get decent stipend depending on the purchasing power parity of the country. So in India, almost it's around 3,000 to $3,300. For Outreachy, I guess it's more or less. So that is listed on their website. Projects completed by you during the program can be added in your resume as well. So these prestigious program add a feather in your cap. and can be a lot more effective when you add it to your resume. So these projects helps a lot in upcoming future and your career as well. You get swags and recognition, which is every developer is fond of. So I hope that helps you all, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or GitHub. You can just contact me anytime available. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, sir. That was quite informative. We got some amazing questions from our audience on the topic.
And moving on to the first question we have, most of the beginners feels that they don't know anything and there is no way in which they could excel in open source events. What is your advice for them?
Okay, so as I told in the starting, for the beginners, I would recommend that you should first excel in particular language. You can do that in your first year or first 6 months of your college. You can excel in a particular language, get to know more about it, solve algorithms and data structures in the same, so that you can explore that particular language, and you can just make some code programs or these things you can contribute in open source for that particular. So starting with contributing in open source, so after excelling in that particular language, you can just join some of the open source these programs by universities. So let's say Script Inventor of Code, or KWOC. These programs are mainly focused on small open source projects, which helps a lot to budding developers out there in the community. And there is actually no way you can just you should think that you can't make it. Everyone can make it in this, and we're all together. So if you want any help, you can just reach me. I'll be happy to help. So this is all about it. You should just first focus on a particular language or a framework, and then go ahead and contribute to these open source university programs, and then to some of the other prestigious or big programs, so that you can gain some experience and confidence level as well.
I hope that helps. How to start open sourcing using GitHub?
Okay, so GitHub is an important thing in open source, and to get started with it, you should first learn some of the Git commands, and if you start from installing that particular Git bash, or if you use GitHub desktop, then it's also fine. You can just get started with learning Git commands, so that it's easier for you to push or make a PR or something like that, and it will help you a lot. You can just learn it online, or if you need any of the information, you can find it online for learning Git, and that actually helps you interact with GitHub a lot, and that will also help you when you find big projects in the organization. And when you start learning this, after learning this, when you start with open source, so making a contribution there, these git commands help you a lot. So I would first recommend you learning Git commands and then using GitHub, which will be a lot easier for you.
Moving on to the next, how to find the right project according to own tech stack.
Okay, so let's say let's say I'm a beginner in Python and I want to start. So I would be using Code Triage or GitHub Explore. GitHub Explorer is actually the best way I would recommend, because when you start the repositories out there in GitHub, you get some preferences and choices by GitHub Explorer that will help you a lot in searching out repositories which match your tech stack. Also, Code Triage gives you a platform with an interactive platform that provides various languages out there, from which you can select projects, running projects, and you can contribute in there. Also, for this GSOC and GSOD, you can just browse some of the organization in their archives as well.
Okay, so the next question is, what was your project for the fellowship And can you show your proposal or send the proposal personally for reference only?
Okay, so to be honest about the fellowship, I was just explaining about the fellowship because I've closely worked with the people out there, but I have not actually joined the fellowship because I was equipped with my internship at Paytm. So I've not actually applied for fellowship program out there. So I would recommend like moving on to the next question.
And the next question is, what was your skill set when you first started off with open source? And wanted to ask this question to get an idea about the whole thing.
Okay, so it's like when I was starting with open source, I was just skilled in JavaScript and basics of Python and some basics of React. So I started with open source that time, and along the way, I learned Git commands. I learned React and other frameworks as well. I also learned various other languages like Ruby or say Django. So these things work along the way. When you start open source, that's a whole new world, and you should not be afraid of. Get started with it. You can learn along with the mentors and the community. You get to learn a lot from the community, and they'll help you grow a lot in this technology field. So there is a lot of chances where like opportunities where you can just apply and grow with the open source community. So I would recommend applying it with a basic tech stack. Say if you are skilled in just Python, basic Python, go search out for open source projects out there and start contributing so that you get some experience and also recognition when you're applying for the programs. And this also matters a lot, that your previous contributions are in which a particular project, if they are really meaningful, that adds a weight to your application.
So our next question is, how do we get started with open source and what are the essential needs to become a good open source contributor?
So open source contributor, a good open source contributor is someone who makes meaningful contributions, in a sense like that the particular contribution is completely tested and like mm, it it implements or affects the code base in the right way and solves a particular issue. So that is a good open source contributor. And to get started with open source, as I've mentioned earlier, learn GitHub and Git Bash commands, and just the basics I would recommend. So going with the flow, you will learn a lot of things like squashing the commits or cherry pick the commits. So those are the things you can learn later. But starting with this, you can just learn the basics, get started with it, and learn with the community with the flow.
Moving on to the next one. What all technologies one should be familiar with before starting open source development?
So, from my perspective, you should be only skilled with any of the framework or languages you are interested in, and only one would work, I would say, because there are a lot of issues. And if you excel in one of the framework or languages, you can just go ahead and solve the good first issues and then the major issues of that particular framework or that language.
Okay, so our next question is, how is really important, what is really important when we go for an open source contribution? Nowadays, I am learning Flutter and also DSA because it is really needed when we go for a big company. What is a perfect way to become a full stack developer and go for Girl Script Summer of Code, and where to start? Needed a full roadmap to Girl Script Summer of Code on the way.
That's a long question. No worries. So I would just say to start with this. So it's like when you start open source development, you always need to excel in a particular language. And as I mentioned earlier, data structures and algorithms also matter. It depicts your knowledge on the logics and everything you have with that particular framework or the language you have excelled in. And for becoming a full stack developer, you first need to just find out the right tech stack for you which interests you. So it's like if you're skilled in Python, you should go with Django or Flask. If you're skilled in JavaScript and you like JavaScript, then you can go with Node.js. So particularly, you need to choose the backend. The front end actually is most of the days is trending with React or Vue. Most of the times, these are used in the front end. And if you're learning Flutter, I would recommend like searching. A lot of Flutter projects are trending these days. One with our organization, we are working with on a particular Flutter project, which is the circuit was mobile app. So we are working on it, and this time we've not listed any project with this, but we are working on it. Actually, we are enhancing it, so you can find out various other Flutter projects out there. And you need a roadmap for the Google, like the Girl Script Summer of Code. So first of all, it's pretty simple for starting with any of the Summer of Codes. So just choose a particular framework or the language, the tech stack particularly, get started with it, gain some skills and experience working on some internship or any of the organizations projects, or let's say freelancing. And after you gain some experience, you can just apply for these programs and you'll be good to go.
I hope the answers the person got the answer. So moving on, which type of project makes a resume strong?
Okay, so any type of project can make your resume strong. Like it should solve actually a real world problem. So let's say if you have made a weather application, that particularly does not solve a real world problem because everyone out there has made a weather application. So let's say if you have made a notes application, so that also helps. But if you have made a multi-user login with a note integrated with a notes application or voice typing in notes, that actually solves a real world problem because that is something new to the community and will help. So these some of the complex, like not saying exactly complex, but the projects that solve real world problems affects your resume a lot. So I would recommend like adding these projects, not the basic ones, something like a clone of any website, let's say Instagram clone or a Twitter clone. These helps a lot because that actually helps you learn the basics of CRUD, uh, login, logout functionalities, post, get requests, everything, HTTPS, HTTP redirection, everything you get to learn. So these kind of projects affects your resume a lot, where you learn a lot of things.
So our next question is how to bring small project of college in real world with the help of open source.
Okay, so let's say if you have designed a particular project that solves or that helps the societies, so then you just need to amplify that project. So directing it to circuit so circuit was actually a college project, let's say. And after we have applied for GSOC in 2018, uh, we got selected for GSOC in 2018 as an organization, and this small project, college project, was amplified to a large platform. So if you want to amplify your projects from college to the open source world, you need to just participate as an organization in open source program, starting from these university season of codes or summer of codes to the prestigious ones. Like all of them are prestigious, but these golden opportunities like Outreachy or Google Summer of Code, Google Season of Docs, everything works. So start from a smaller perspective and then go towards the broader ones helps a lot, gaining like the audience for your particular project.
Okay. Moving on, can open source allow people to rebuild paid software using their source code in the public repository? If so, is that a threat to a commercial software?
Okay, so open source allows rebuilding of softwares, but most of the commercial software do not have their open like code open sourced. So let's say if there is a particular paid software and their like the code is open sourced, then there is no actually the choice for that particular organization to be completely free. So this is not the point. Actually, the point is the commercial software do not let their uh, codes open source. They make it some part of it like the SDKs or the APIs, but they do not make it completely open sourced. And this is actually not a threat, I would say, but yes, there is a lot of competition between the open source softwares and the commercial ones because of the functionalities. See, the open source community is actually really fast, and they give the enhancements and features with every commit, but the commercial ones give it on every update. So the open source communities are really fast and expanding exponentially.
So our next question is when to start contributing to open source, like in which year? Should we develop our skills first, or should we start contributing to open source with what we already know?
Okay, so as I've mentioned that there is no age limit for getting started with open source. You can just start in your first year of college or in your schooling days or in your fourth year as well. So there is no age limit for it. The earlier you start, the better it is for you, because open source is really helpful and helps you gain experience a lot. So moving on to the second part of this question, please can you just repeat the second part of this question? You're on mute actually.
The second part was should we develop our skills first, or should we start contributing to open source with what we already know? And in which year should we start contributing to open source?
Okay, so I've answered which year you should start. Actually, there's no limit, but for like this contribution point of view, you should like first gain some skills in the particular field you're working, and after you gain some basic skills in that particular tech stack, you can just start contributing and alongside learn more of that like in deep when you get some free time. So that's always helpful because you gain experience and also learn at the same time, and that actually saves time.
Okay. So we have also got some questions from our live audience. Here we
Okay.
go. People are trying to make strong resume, so I need good details about Java to make project which is applicable for service or product based company.
Okay. So for particularly for Java, I would recommend using Spring Boot or Hibernate for making projects, because that actually affects the product-based companies' interviews a lot. In Java, making desktop application and using these Spring Boot and Hibernate will add weight to your resume, because that is what is needed when you apply for these product-based companies. And also, some of the projects are open sourced for Java, so you can contribute to them as well. So if the contribution is really meaningful, you can add the link to that particular code snippet so that it also adds weight to your resume.
Okay. Last but not the least, tell us your journey about how were you selected as an SD intern at a Paytm.
Okay, so um, I'll tell it about. So when I've applied through the general application and Paytm, and I got the response. There were two of the technical interviews, and one demo round for my product, like the project that I have developed during the days I was given the time. I was given a time of around 3 to 4 days, and after that I had a product demo. And for the technical interviews, I was asked, in the first one I was asked basic DSA, some of them going to deep linked lists or deep topics like graphs, linked lists, or trees. And the next technical interview was all about my tech stack, like full stack development and cloud. And the project was actually confidential, so I wouldn't disclose it here. And the next was an HR round, which was just a general discussion. And after that, I got my acceptance letter.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering our questions.
Thanks a lot. If you
Over,
have any other questions, do let me know. I'm right here. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and GitHub. I'll be happy to answer your questions as well.
over to you, Vanshika.
Thank you so much, Shivansh, for sharing your valuable information. It was a wonderful session. Thank you,
Thanks a
Mr.
lot.
Towers, for guiding us and giving us opportunity to organize this session. And I would also like to thank all the enthusiastic participants. You guys were really enthusiastic.
Thank you, Astha, Vanshika, and Atulya. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you, DSCBIT and Kartikeya Rawat, for inviting me to this awesome webinar. I'm, I'm happy to help everyone out there. Take care and stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone.